because before Parliament, a parliamentary select committee tomorrow, and gosh, I can't even recall because it's so forgettable. It's basically a bill that would allow the government to tax companies like Facebook and Google, or Meta and Google and others, tax them for running or using New Zealand media companies' information and sharing it, and presumably making money off it through advertising, and that money would go to the mainstream media companies. So it's a special tax on the internet or internet social media providers to help out legacy media. Is it a good idea, and where the hell did this come from? Now, someone I know has taken an interest in this is Eric Crampton, who's been looking at this trend around the world. He's from the New Zealand Initiative. I have to ask Eric first up, and nice to have you with us, Eric. I have to ask you first up, what association do you have with the Atlas Network and their secret goat slaughtering, stuff that goes on?
Well, the Atlas Network is a loose affiliation of think tanks around the world that basically think that liberty and markets are good things, that promoting civic virtues, more prosperity is wonderful. You can get kicked out if you start advocating sort of racist policies, things like that. But otherwise, it's just a loose membership organization. We are one of them. They have...
Oh, hang on. I've uncovered the conspiracy. So the New Zealand Initiative is kind of a member, if that's what you are, of the Atlas Network.
We're a member of the Atlas Network. Yep. They... if we wanted to, we could apply for grants that they provide. We don't apply for grants. We're funded by our members, and we have no need to go out seeking grants.
How much money do they throw around? Could I get one?
I don't. I think you'd have to be a partner of theirs to be eligible to apply for grants. The last annual report of theirs that I'd looked at had a total of $75,800 US that was distributed across think tanks in Australia and New Zealand. If you think that a little over $100,000 New Zealand is enough to sway the views of any single think tank, never mind dividing it across a whole pile of them, or whoever.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I look at how much money we give to Mihi Forbes, who really kicked off the whole Atlas thing. And like in one go, she gets $500,000 from the taxpayer. So I wonder who's got the disproportionate...
That's kind of similar, right?
Yeah.
It's similar in one way that they would be putting up grant applications for producing documentaries, and if they're successful, then they get a grant to produce the documentary.
Yeah.
I have seen some of you can go to Atlas's website and it lists the grants that they currently have available, right?
Yeah.
We don't put in for those, but if an affiliated think tank did put in and they got the grant, it's not really about swaying views. It's just doing a good job as a think tank that broadly likes the idea that markets work.
Yeah. And you seem pretty relaxed. It's not like secret. It's not like I'm having to clap you in irons and poke your eyes out for you to say, oh, yeah, we're kind of a member.
It's really weird. Like, they send out regular emails. They show up in my other folder in Outlook, and I might notice every fifth one. We don't put in for grants. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, I'm just having fun with it because it appears to me to be the new WEF of the left is Atlas. Everything's Atlas Network. Well, even though Mihi running his forms claims that they interfered with the voice. David Farrar told me yesterday the only Atlas-associated groups or people he could find in the voice were advocating for the yes vote, which is kind of funny. Let's get on to the issue that I asked you on about, though.
Sure.
And I must admit, because I'm not sucking on the public tit, and I get money actually I get a check every month from Meta for the amount of hits we get increasing, and it gets bigger every month, the amount of social media hits we get from the platform. I've always looked, to be honest, at social media platforms as a means of distribution that I don't get charged for. If my idea is to get eyeballs and get people engaged with the platform, social media is a wonderful way to do it. What is the beef?
Yeah.
What is the beef that our media companies have with these companies? Is it a similar beef to other legacy media around the world? And what is the solution? The solution about the tax? Just talk us through the basics of it.
Okay, so it depends how far back you want to go. Like if you go to the Putin interview, we can go back to the year 800 in Russia.
No, not the year 800.
Here you could probably
let's get a contemporary take, a contemporary contextual
take. Sure. Media companies lost a whole pile of revenue when classified ads hived off to the likes of Trade Me, and then lost more money when, people didn't really want to pay that much for paper subscriptions.
Yeah.
And it turns out that Google and Facebook are a lot better at getting ads in front of people than the daily newspaper is. It can be a lot more targeted. You can get exactly the right ad in front of the right person. So people are more likely to want to put their ads up on Google and Facebook than to buy print advertising in newspapers. Newspapers lost a whole pile of money out of this. And so you get, a decline in the quality and caliber of journalism and a lot of angst about whether they're going to be able to keep funding themselves. I think ultimately it's that newspapers see that money they used to get is now going to others. Those others seem to have a lot of money and they would like some of it. So the internet was built on a principle of free linking, that anybody could put up a link to anybody else and you weren't charged for it. There was always the ability to set a paywall. Nobody could stop you from putting up a paywall. And you could always put up a little robots.txt file on your site and web searches wouldn't crawl it. What's going on with this legislation is following the Canadian legislation. And the basic deal there isn't quite a link tax, but it's awfully close to it. If a platform that's designated allows links to news or facilitates access to news, in the Canadian example, it's facilitating access to news for Canadians, then they can be subject to arbitration. Media companies can go in, newspapers can go in and say, hey, we want to bargain with you for a deal that will allow you to continue linking to us. Okay, so it's got a bargaining framework rather than quite a tax if the platform links to the news. All right?
Yeah.
Now, that bargaining, it goes to an arbitration process. If you're not able to come to an agreement on how much as Google or Facebook you're willing to pay the news media companies for the right to link to them, which again
but the companies can stop those links. They can block those links, can't they?
That's obviously true, yes.
So why don't they?
Because they know that they get more out of the links than they need the links, right? They need the traffic because once people click on the newspaper's website, they see ads on the newspaper's website, and the newspaper gets some money from that.
Yeah.
In the Canadian case, platforms like Meta in particular were really worried about where arbitration can go, because if they don't come to an agreement, the arbitrator chooses the offer that they think is most fair.
Oh, okay? So they basically get a compulsory fine dressed up as a fee.
And you've got no clue what it's going to amount to, right?
Yeah, okay.
So it's massive risk of high penalties.
Yeah.
Australia had put in place similar legislation a few years back, but then retracted some of the worst elements of it at the last minute. Canada's gone more full bore on it. And after the Australian experience, Facebook learned that really news isn't worth much to them. If somebody who's on Facebook and looking at pictures of their grandkids and whatnot leaves Facebook because their cousins put up a link to a news story and they click on the link and they leave Facebook, they're not seeing ads powered by Facebook anymore. They're seeing ads on the publisher's site.